You're listening to TJ's One of Us for the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. You can find the team on our Twitter at ANY Podcast. You can also find us on our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. And now, to bring us in, the Jackdaws.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such eager my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TJ's One of Us here at the Always Next Year Podcast Studio Network. I am your host, Shane, and I am joined by our newest member, someone who was actually a guest of the pod several months ago, my cousin, Scott Novick. Scott, how are you?
Doing pretty well, Shane. Glad to be back on.
Yeah, man, we're excited. We obviously lost our Sixers lead guy here, Kevin, who is now going on to doing a movie review pod and website. This is something he had done years in the past, and it's what he loves to do, so we're super proud of him. So anyone who does or had followed Kevin, continue to do so. It's Kevman316 on Twitter. But Scott, you are essentially his replacement, so you're going to be one of the regulars now. So first of all, you welcomed yourself by writing an actual article for us, which is something that we have failed to have any consistency in doing. So one, thank you. Two, I have to ask you because of what your title was. Do you call and refer to Jimmy Butler as J Butt?
Well, J Butt is a little tongue-in-cheek title, so I'm a big Pardon My Take guy. I'm not one to tout other podcasts, but I think the Pardon My Take guys do pretty well, and they have a kind of running joke calling Jimmy Butler J Butt. When he takes on this like heel persona, he becomes J Butt. So they picked up the nickname, and I've been trying to make it stick ever since. I don't think anyone thinks it's quite as funny as I do, but I'm sticking with it. So he's J Butt for life to me.
J Butt for life. All right. Well, I can dig it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that article, and then just maybe a little bit about your Sixers fandom and history and how you became a Sixers fan outside of the fact that you were born in Philadelphia.
Well, like Shane said, I grew up in Philadelphia. I live out in Newport Beach, California now. So, I watch my Sixers games at work and, tell everyone to leave me alone, throw it up on a monitor and stay late. So I get bonus points for staying late and watching the Sixers every day. So that's always cool. But I've been following the Sixers for a long time. My oldest brother is a huge Sixers fan. So it's something we've kind of bonded over in the past. And we watched every single game of the process, either together or apart, and then we call each other about it. So I've been through every agonizing game, every loss, every piece of the Hinkie story, followed all of Joel Embiid. Even before all that, I was watching Sixers back in the mid to late 90s. So I've been around for a while. I've seen everything. I love every second of it. And yeah, I wouldn't root for any other basketball team than our Philadelphia 76ers. We'll make one quick shout out because I'm a Lehigh University grad. So although I don't root for any other teams, I do follow my boy CJ McCollum out in Portland. So,
okay.
On the West Coast, when I do get home and the Sixers are over, I do tune into the Trailblazers quite a bit on League Pass. So shout out to my boy CJ.
Did you actually attend school the same time as him? I have no idea how old you actually are. And I've known you my whole life.
Yeah, he's the same age as me. So weirdly enough, we would be at parties together. I'd see him in the gym playing. I watched him grow from probably about 6 foot, like 160 or 70 pounds his first year, but still crossing everyone up and playing ridiculous offense to filling out a bit more and beating Duke. I was there for that whole mess. And, that was, Lehigh isn't exactly what you would call a sports powerhouse. So we kind of hang on to the beating Duke thing quite a bit and bragging about CJ. So yeah, I always like to stick that in whenever I can. But so I'm going to be hopping on a little bit more now and become a regular in the podcast. And I'd love to keep writing. And I'm going to be talking mostly about the Sixers, little bit about the Phillies, because I grew up playing baseball. I was, the the long-feared 5'7", 140-pound pitcher in high school baseball. So,
Oh, there you go. It's amazing you didn't have a career in that.
I know, right? Who would have thought that there isn't a lot of major league teams seeking out tiny guys like me, to throw 70 miles an hour and
it's a damn shame.
50-mile-an-hour curveball, but hey, it's past me. So I'm happy to be here and happy to hop on and vent and gloat and talk about everything Sixers.
Well, again, I'm happy to have you, and it is cool for me, for all the guys on the show so far, with the exception of Connor. I've known for a decade, but you're someone who I've known literally my entire existence, and I still remember. I think it was like a Christmas party or something. It was either Christmas or New Year's with the family, and it was during the process era, and I think it was like fresh off their like 10-win season or whatever, and we're in the middle of that. And you were talking Sixers basketball with Brian, your older brother, who you mentioned. And I was like, I did not know anyone other than me paid attention to this goddamn team. So that was super rewarding for me. So I think somewhere in like the back of my brain that just continually stuck. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on the show now, because you did go through all of the bullshit that we all went through, who stuck through the process years to get to this right now.
Yeah. And this is our time to shine a little bit. But, it wouldn't be a Philadelphia team if we didn't still get angry and hurt when people like Jimmy Butler leave us. So to tease my article a little bit, that's kind of what I wrote about. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, calling him J-Butt and, making fun of him a little bit. But, we will miss his presence and his clutch performances at the end of the game. And, check it out. Be critical of it as well. I'm just hopping onto the site, so any feedback is welcome, and I really want to hear what people think about what I write.
So you can check that article out. It's on our website. It's www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. Just select the blog section. It'll be the most recent blog post there. Connor also has a write-up coming up for a NHL draft review for the Philadelphia Flyers. So it'll be one of the most two recent articles that come up there. And again, you can always email us back and give us your thoughts and feedback, or you can always jump into any of the conversations that we have on Twitter. It's at ANYP Podcast. But this is free agent period has opened up for the NBA, and it was as always a fast-paced and very exciting time for the NBA. And as much as I like to sit here and say that the landscape of the NBA has changed, the power just kind of shifts between like 6 teams in the NBA. The rest of the league kind of doesn't matter. And it kind of has that same feel this year. Fortunately enough for us, despite the loss of Jimmy Butler, we've put together a really, really strong roster. And I don't know about you, but from the draft on, I have had this love-hate relationship with Elton Brand. I like to sit there and think that I'm a patient individual as I sat through this entire process era to get here. But now that we're here, it's like I expect like just immediate gratification to all of those things. And when I don't get that, I loathe Brand, and it drives me insane. And then all of a sudden he does some good things, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I dig it. I'm on board with this plan. Let's keep going. What's your evaluation so far? And have you been as up and down with the Sixers offseason as I have been?
Yeah, I mean, so Elton Brand just kind of becomes the scapegoat and the hero all at once for me as well. We all just miss Sam Hinkie, so anyone coming in, after Colangelo is going to be liked a little bit better. But like Elton Brand he's a young GM, so he's figuring some stuff out. But I think he's pulled a couple tricks out of his sleeve here, and he's really impressed me this offseason, especially. The whole Jimmy Butler thing, and we'll get further into that. I was dreading it. We've had a couple talks where I was sure Jimmy Butler was coming back, and the thought that he was going to leave us was a little scary to me, that we weren't going to be able to replace him. But overall, I'm just pretty happy and pretty impressed with what Elton Brand has done. There's not really much you can say negative about him right now, and I'm really trying. I'm racking my brain because he's not Sam Hinkie, but hey, he's holding it together pretty well.
I think about the only true negative thing that I can sit here and state at this point is the way that he handled that draft, and essentially telegraphing exactly what he wanted to do, which made certain trades more obvious for other teams and for trade partners such as the Celtics. So on draft night, the Sixers do trade up and they take Matisse Thybulle. So we won't talk too much on draft. We don't have to talk about Shayok, or anyone else there. But Thybulle is a guy who offensively is a work in progress, not unlike last year's first round pick Zaire Smith. But both guys can play both the guard and play out on the wing and have excellent perimeter defense. And that is something that we saw. We did not have any true playoff playable pieces on our bench or in our rotation. We didn't have rotations last year. We had like 6 playable players on any given night in the playoffs. This year, we attacked that need. We didn't attack our shooting need, which was still dire and is still kind of dire. But we did attack that perimeter defense and that athleticism and that length that both of those options provide us. Did you get a chance to watch any type of highlight videos or read up on Thybulle at all? And are you excited about what he can kind of bring?
I read up a little bit on him. I do have to make an admission here. This is the first year probably in the last 15 years of my life, and I'm only 27, so it's a pretty long time, or most of my life, that I did not watch the draft. Caught the Sixers pick. I saw what they did in the first round, and just kind of left it. We're at a spot in our history that the draft isn't the most important thing to us, and I'm kind of happy about that. I only have a couple quick notes on Thybulle. It's just he's going to be a 3-and-D guy. He came out of Washington. He was the defensive player of the year, which, hey, we're going for defense this year. It's pretty obvious. We're not hiding that from anyone. Not a great shooter. He's real athletic. Has a crazy 7-foot wingspan. One negative against him: doesn't eat red meat and refuses to eat a cheesesteak. I don't know how that's going to play out, but you got to think he's going to get talked into eating a cheesesteak at some point.
So you just went. You don't have my Twitter account yet, correct?
No, but I've probably skimmed through it at some point in the past. But
okay, that was something I've actually attacked. Not the fact that he doesn't eat red meat, but the fact that cheesesteaks are mentioned to literally every Philadelphia or incoming Philadelphia athlete. And at a certain point, I'm like, can we just fucking not? Like, we don't need to talk about this. But I will say the fact that he eats no red meat whatsoever is incredibly concerning to me. And I don't know that you can trust someone that doesn't want to put away a fantastic Morton Steakhouse steak. That to me sounds wrong in every sense of the word.
I agree. I actually had a friend in high school who went to Syracuse to run cross country, and cross country is not nearly as intensive as basketball is, but Syracuse is a top Division I team, and my friend was a vegetarian, and the coach, the first thing he did when he got there, he said, "Yeah, you're not going to be a vegetarian anymore. You're not coming here." I don't know if that flies anymore in 2019, but the coach was concerned. Exactly right. Coach was concerned about my had a similar body makeup to me. He was probably like 5'7", 5'8", 140 pounds. Like, the coach was concerned about him getting his nutrients. So, I mean, I don't know how Thybulle is getting everything he needs to go out there and play tough defense and get above the rim like he's gonna have to do.
I don't know, man.
Meat, but
yeah. Jalil went, vegan. Andre Iguodala went vegan for a while. These guys find a way to make it work, and they find a way to get everything that they need in their body to be able to perform at a high level. Well, one of the two mentioned perform at a high level. But although, you know what, Jalil played really nice last year. Yeah. Once he settled in. So, good for former process pick of the 76ers, Jalil Okafor.
Yeah. And I think, hey, if we're sitting back here after the draft and after free agency starts, and our biggest complaint about the guy is he doesn't eat red meat, I think we're sitting in a pretty good spot. So I'm not overly concerned.
Unless everything has shit the bed, then I will fly out with the most random things to be angry about. I'll sit there and I'll criticize the person in the third row for holding the beer in their left hand instead of their right or some crazy shit. And I'll throw in the fact that this motherfucker only ate a steak. I'd be so much happier in life. Like, I will get to that point. So let's just hope that 76ers basketball does not reach a level that brings out the insanity that is my particular just quirks of anger.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's kind of set this up now. So the 76ers we're approaching 6 o'clock start of 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Obviously you're out on the West Coast. We're approaching the start of free agency now. Several hours prior to this, I mean, almost everyone in the league doesn't play by the rules. Like everyone knows what's going to happen, and like I said, this shit happens quick in the NBA. It's not like what it's like in Major League Baseball where things are drawn out forever. These teams and these players, these organizations, they have a pretty good idea that those backroom deals are done. So I'm sitting there and I'm at my game. So I'm still, attempting to play baseball at nearly 30 years old. And that's just an awful life decision on my part. And in between every inning, I'm checking my phone and I'm looking at all these different rumors, and so many different things are happening and so many different things are being said. Nothing is being said for the 76ers. So leave it to that nerd Elton Brand to not break any rules and not have any legitimate conversation with anyone in the NBA about getting anything fucking done before 6 o'clock. So naturally 6 o'clock hits and we're all sitting here because we're dealing with the rumors of the Houston sign and trade possibility or the Miami sign and trade possibility with Jimmy Butler. We just want to know. Now, I don't know about you, but as 6 o'clock rolled around, I assumed the very first alert that was going to come up was going to be the 76ers have decided to sign Jimmy Butler and trade his rights over to, one of the two of those cities. And I was just ready to turn the TV off and give up on free agency. And then I saw JJ Redick was the first 76er of last year's roster to hit NBA TV news at that point. JJ Redick obviously signs 2 years for $26.5 million to go to New Orleans, which is a team that I'm going to have a hell of a fun time following this year. I think that they are possibly, we texted about this a little bit, I think this is possibly one of those teams that are too young and dumb to know that they're not supposed to be as good as they potentially could be and that they could make some noise. And they're flat out, they're going to be an exciting basketball team. And I think that JJ's veteran presence, what he was able to do in Philadelphia, I think it's going to just bring a ton of value to New Orleans and helping bring some of these young guys up. But when you heard the JJ news, I guess you were probably still at work, correct? No, I guess you wouldn't be at work. It was Sunday, wasn't it?
No, it was a Sunday, yeah. But I was just sitting in disbelief. So I was doing my Sunday errands and running around, going to the beach and stuff like we do in California or whatever. And then I got these alerts on my phone. I was like, hold on. JJ Redick is gone. We didn't even talk about that. That wasn't even in the fucking picture. Are you kidding me? I assumed he was coming back. He was going to take less money to stay on the team.
Especially being from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I did not get that at all. I was confused, and as Philadelphia fans do, I just lashed out immediately. I was like, what an idiot. Why is he going there? He doesn't need any more money. Why doesn't he just stay in Philadelphia and win a fucking championship? But he decided to go, and as I thought through it more, and we talked about it a little bit, I think it's a great move for him. I think that team down there is going to be awesome to watch, and he's just going to be an integral part of it. I'm happy with the move for him. I mean, you can't say a bad thing about. Well, you can say a lot of bad things about JJ Redick. I changed that, but I personally won't say those things because I think he had a good career here. He contributed a lot, and overall, I'm happy with his tenure here, and I wish him well.
So this was the hardest thing for me. So I was a JJ Redick fan, and I was a JJ Redick fan without ever having, prior to his stay in Philadelphia, being I tried to continue to hate JJ Redick as I had hated him throughout his entire college and NBA career. He just always looked like someone that he just has this punchable face, and he just provided something that we don't or hadn't really had successfully in Philadelphia in so long, and that type of an elite 3-point shooter. So he very quickly made me a fan. And I see the way that the offense works and clicks with a guy like him. And I see the way that he plays off with Embiid. And there was so much positivity there to what he was, that he was someone that, not unlike yourself, I was kind of banking on, what, he'll probably take less money to stay close to home. He can still stay in Brooklyn, for the majority of the year. and we'll sign him to 3 years, and he can just kind of lessen his role each year and lessen those minutes and kind of ride off into the sunset with, one or two or more NBA championships before he's done. And I'm walking to my car from my game, and I don't talk to a lot of the guys on my team yet. I still don't know everyone's name because I'm an awful human being who doesn't take the time to do this. And one of the few guys,
too busy reading about the Sixers and NBA free agencies. So
honestly, it's true.
Time to learn names.
That, and I was rolling a bat over my quad because I'm 100 and walking onto a baseball field, I hurt. So one of the few guys that I do, talk with and interact with, he's a big Sixers fan, and naturally the only person that we spoke about was JJ freaking Redick, and he was like, I could do without him. And I was so bitterly angry. I was like, you got to be shitting me. I was like, this guy, you need JJ Redick on this team for it to click. And naturally it would only make sense that he is the first domino to kind of fall for the 76ers this year. And everything in me wanted to sit there and text our team group chat, but I can't remember the guy's fucking name. So I didn't know who I would be particularly addressing it to. So if he happens to listen to this, you were right. And apparently the Sixers are just going to have to not have JJ Redick and learn how to deal with that. But not unlike yourself, $26.5 million for a guy who's 35, 36 years old, whatever he is. 2 years in some nice weather in a pretty cool town with a really fun team. Great for JJ.
Yeah, my one tip for JJ Redick is check out Jazz Fest when you're down there in New Orleans. It's a good time, and I've been down there once. I mean, it's literally my only experience there, but we wish you well, JJ Redick. Do some work, make it exciting down there for us.
Absolutely, make League Pass worth the subscription. So then we get everybody's favorite, and can we agree that Mike Scott now just plays up to this persona that Philadelphia has welcomed him as? Oh
yeah, the guy, he's awesome. Just
he's hilarious.
Wise, he's embraced it. Like, everyone loves him here. I don't know if we've had a guy come in and do that, except maybe Joel Embiid. Like,
yeah, but like it's different though when a superstar comes in with a big personality. That is what it is, But when it's these role playing guys who come in that you latch onto, like. There was that stretch of time during the end of the process era, like while we were still not yet good, and then into that first year of Joel, where like TJ was kind of that. Like we hear it all the time. He's everybody's favorite cheerleader. But for a player like Mike Scott, and like the NBA more so than anything, it's an image game, right? It's so much what you look like, what you sound like, and your productivity on the floor, but you're selling something beyond basketball. You're selling an image, and that guy has fully embraced what the city of Philadelphia sees him as, and he is playing that up into a caricature in its own right, and I fucking love him for it. I'm so glad he came back. He's back on a 2-year deal for just under $10 million for those 2 years. So I don't know how many times he can fall into the court and take a sip of some white lady's drink, but damn it, I'm for it. I am for it. What's your thoughts on bringing back Mike Scott? Good move, bad move?
I think it's a great move. I have very few notes on my sheet here, but one of them is the regional manager Mike Scott is back, and I love it. He's going to help out with load management. I mean, aside from personality-wise, he really is a crucial part of the bench. Like, we miss him when he's not there.
For sure.
He comes in and he hits a couple clutch threes every game, plays solid defense. He's real athletic. I mean, you can't ask for much more than someone who plays as hard as Mike Scott does. Like, he took a little bit less money to come here, which, hey, we all love and we all really appreciate. He's embraced the city. I think he's going to be a big part of the team this year. Yeah,
I completely agree. And last year, like I said, we had 6, maybe 7 playable players in the playoffs, and it was, he was the number 6 or 7, he and Ennis. So, what he was able to bring to add some depth and some minor rotation that Brett Brown could use was invaluable, and we certainly felt it when he was out with that heel injury or plantar fasciitis, whatever the hell it was that he went through in that Brooklyn series. But so obviously Mike Scott signs 2 years, just under the $10 million, and then things go silent for a while, and then when things go silent, like the worst things in my brain occur. I'm sitting here thinking of like every ridiculous Jimmy Butler scenario that could potentially possibly happen. Like I'm sitting here thinking like, fuck, he's going to take like $3.5 million this year, go to LA. Kawhi's going to go to LA too. Basketball's never going to be fun again. Screw it. And I was losing my damn mind. And then finally the alerts start trickling in and we start hearing Jimmy Butler has decided to, sign for the 4-year max and a sign and trade going to Miami. The rest of that deal wasn't finalized for over 24 hours. It was a shit show. We didn't know who. At one point we were getting Richardson and ANYP. At another point we were getting Richardson and a pick. Dallas was involved and Dallas wasn't involved. Dallas was involved. Let's just get down to the main point of this. Jimmy Butler's no longer a 76er. A guy who, and you teased it in your article, and you did have the perfect gift, by the way, and the fact that I can't get our website right now to respond to that is actually quite upsetting to me. But this is a guy who said, I just want to win. I have more than enough money, from his first contracts to feed his family for forever and to keep his family, educated and clothed and housed and everything. He said winning is what matters. Well, it's pretty clear that, and I'm not saying winning isn't what matters to him, but it is very clear at this point now that becoming option 3 on an up-and-coming team as the Sixers with 2 superstars in front of him, he was never going to be option 1 for a full 48-minute basketball game, 82 games a year. And I think that was the defining thing for him, and ended up saying, yes, you guys need to get me to Miami. What is your takeaway from the Jimmy Butler thing?
I went through, the stages of grief almost losing Jimmy Butler when we first got the notice that he was leaving. I was like, oh no, he's going to Miami, but hey, they're probably going to offer him a max deal and we wouldn't. So, hey, financially, good for him. Like he said, he doesn't care about money. He said he only cares about winning, but we all care about money. So, hey, good for him. He's going to leave. Like, I'm fine with this. And then the trade kind of fell through a little bit. And I was like, wait, is he coming back? And like, it's going to be real awkward because he wanted to leave and then we're going to sign him for less. I don't know how I feel about that, but the GMs and front offices, fucked up and couldn't add the money together and figure out how to make things work. But it didn't matter to our end of the deal. So, Jimmy Butler was gone. And then it broke that Jimmy Butler actually got offered a max deal by the Sixers, 5 years, $190 million, which we did not need to give him. I don't think that was the right move, and I'm kind of glad he ended up saying no to it, but it makes no sense. So we offered him everything he could have possibly wanted. The max deal, 5 years, $190 million. It's a whole hell of a lot of money. We offered him, the chance for a championship, to be not the first option, not the second option, but the third option most of the way through the game. But the number 1 option when we have 24 seconds left. And to me, that means a lot in the NBA. He's going to be that pretty much anywhere he goes, except for, a couple teams in the league, but he was never going to go to them. And I just don't get why he's doing what he did. And it confused me a lot. But hey, we can only look ahead. And out of that trade, we got Josh Richardson. We got J. Rich. I did say I wasn't going to make a direct stat comparison to Josh Richardson and Jimmy Butler in my article, but as I looked more through the stats and stuff and watched some tape on Richardson and read about him more as a player, I'm overall very, very happy with the deal. I think we escaped a big contract that could have been the downfall of Elton Brand and a real problem for us, say in year 3 and 4 of that deal. Jimmy Butler's hurt because he's always hurt. When he's crying because he's not getting the ball, all the time. And it looking back on it, it's the right move for us. I still don't know what he's doing, but I'm pretty happy with the deal. I think we win here. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think that the Sixers could have come away in any better of a circumstance or scenario than what they have. And like you, I have no idea. I've spoken about it on the last, 10 episodes of TJ's One of Us. We offered Jimmy something that no other team could have possibly offered him. That was like a logical fit. Like, we were the team, we were the city, this fan base fucking loved Jimmy Butler. We would have built fucking statues for this guy, even if we didn't win. Like, that's just how much we embraced him and his attitude and his personality. He was a funny guy. He worked in our locker room to us, to the things that we could see. Obviously, we couldn't see how much of a pain in the dick he was, behind closed doors, and what he was doing to what he was doing to Brett Brown. There we go. And how difficult he may have been making life, or how difficult he was making things on himself, trying to make that work. And maybe he was just far more unhappy than what he potentially let on. But I don't know what he's exactly thinking. But one thing that I do know is that I am also grateful that we did not have to give him a max, because it's not that Jimmy Butler was going to, like, himself was going to bully us into offering a max deal. It's not that Tobias Harris was going to bully us into the max deal. It wasn't those two individual players. It was the circumstances with which we got them. When you move every movable asset you had available to you for those two players, for rentals, for guys you knew were going to walk, that's risky. And it says, well, you're tied to them now. You have to give player X or Z or Y or whatever the max deal. And that's what really drove me crazy, because to me, neither player is worth a max, but both of them are going to get it or close to it because of what we gave up. And I'm super, super happy at this point that we only ended up with one player who did shave $10 million off his max, or what would have been a max, and that we were able to pull something of value, Richardson, in this Butler deal. So those are the things, the major takeaways that I had. Richardson's a younger, up-and-coming player, very athletic. He was the primary option in Miami, and he shouldn't have been. So I think coming to a team that he's going to now be the fourth option, sometimes even fifth option in your starting lineup every single night, this is going to be perfect for him. He's going to, again, he was forced to play a style that probably isn't super conducive to him, and his perfect success in Miami being that main guy. So he'll be able to play a different style of basketball here, and the pressure will be off a little bit individually. And I couldn't be happier about it. And just like you mentioned earlier in an earlier point, this team is very geared towards defense now, which is good because Brett Brown is a very defensive-minded coach. So surrounding him with pieces that can actually fit the philosophy and his plans and schemes, that's perfect. And that's really, really good work by Elton Brand in the front office there. So next one that we had in, we talked about a little bit, the 76ers do go ahead and they get their 5-year deal done with Tobias Harris for $180 million. So he doesn't take the full max. He shaves a little bit off to allow for some wiggle room to get some other pieces involved here. I actually think that Tobias Harris is someone who was really hurt by coming from a situation in LA where it was basically like, hey, just do you, shoot. Just play your game, score. And you saw that, in his first half numbers where they were all career highs. Come to Philadelphia and you're now the fourth option on any given night, and you have to fit 3 other guys ahead of you, their philosophy and style of basketball. Well, now he is the purest shooter that is available to us on the court at any given time. And he may not even be the true third option. He may be like 2A or B because of the style that he plays. So I actually think Toby is probably the better fit of the two. What do you take away on Tobias Harris versus Jimmy Butler if you could have only kept one and to the contract of $180?
I think I first off, I definitely agree. I think Elton Brand had a magic crystal ball, and he was looking into it and saw what was going to happen with this whole team, and it was like, all right, if I had to pick between Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, I would prefer Tobias Harris, and for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned. He can now spread the floor. He can find his hot spot. He can shoot. He can call for the ball a little more on offense. He can work with Ben Simmons. He doesn't have to play the 4 because now we have Al Horford and Joel Embiid, which we'll get into Horford a little bit more soon. But I overall think he's the biggest winner from this trade. I think it's similar to how, it's a reverse of the effect, but it's similar to how LeBron and Kevin Love couldn't play together because LeBron would constantly take Kevin Love's spot on the floor. Jimmy Butler doesn't necessarily take Tobias Harris's spot on the floor. However, he's he's such a me player, and he demands the ball so much, and he takes away from what Tobias Harris can do. And it turned Tobias Harris into a role player, a very expensive one at that. And that's just not who he is. I think he's going to be a pure shooter, the purest one that we have, weirdly enough. And I think he's just going to flourish, and this is going to be a career year for him. I'm very excited to see what he does now.
As am I. I also dig his voice. He's got this like soft, like raspy, like I almost feel like he's. I'm not saying like full on gangster of like the 50s, but like I definitely feel like there is some like killer in him, and I hope it just comes out on the court this year, and that he does have that career year that you're kind of projecting here. Big Toby fan, and I'm also very, very pro betting on guys who are entering their physical prime in a situation that fits their style of play. And I think that right now, making him that now third option, and on certain circumstances second option, this is fitting Toby, and I couldn't be more excited than that. So we talked you teased it a little bit there, Al Horford. So if I went back and I reviewed, so I don't have time hop on my phone. I know everyone else does, but I'm 300 years old and I don't have anything new on my phone. But I am now contemplating downloading that app specifically so I can laugh at myself for all of the Horford tweets that I have had over the last several years. I have torched this man because he's just dominated the Sixers. He's dominated Joel Embiid. He never misses that mid-range jump shot. He never misses a fucking three-pointer at the top of the arc right there. Everything he does is so smooth and so technically sound. I fucking hate it. He's like the teacher's pet of the NBA, and I fucking hate the guy. And now I have to love him for all the reasons I hated him. And I got to say, I'm pretty open to it, and I think it's going to be a really quick transition for me mentally. I think I'm going to handle it okay. So Al Horford, 4 years, $96 million, can go up to $109 million with championship bonuses, which let's hope he receives all of. Al Horford, did you hate him as much as I did during his tenure in Boston?
God, yeah. The only guy I might have hated more in Boston than him was Olnick when he was there for a brief time, just because he's so fucking ugly and he doesn't play well.
Punchable faces are a real thing, and he had it.
Punchable. Yeah, I mean, I probably couldn't reach.
Same thing with Baines.
A full foot taller than me, but
stand
Baines
on a chair. Too. Well, that's good. Baines has that stupid ass man bun.
I'd climb that thing and get up to those face. But yeah, Al Horford he has torched the Sixers over and over and over again. He has not missed that elbow jump shot that Kevin Garnett made famous for ever. I don't remember him literally ever missing it. He hits threes too, which is something he picked up in his game, and he's surprisingly great at. But I'm really excited that we got him. I didn't get it at first, but he helps with managing Joel Embiid, keeping him off the floor, and allowing us to keep that same level of defensive talent down low. He's great on offense. I don't think him and Joel Embiid are going to play together as much as we would hope. I would say maybe 10 minutes a game or so. But, when they are together, he'll be able to stay down low, let Joel Embiid work the floor a little bit and play his kind of crazy big man athleticism game. One of the craziest facts that I dug up, and this is a guy, just looking to justify his feelings and going, what did we do getting rid of Jimmy Butler? Are we better with Al Horford? So Al Horford is a better three-point shooter statistically than Jimmy Butler. We're talking strictly percentages, but last year he shot 36%. Jimmy Butler shot under 35%. I think it was 33 and a couple points in there or something. Granted, Al Horford doesn't shoot as many threes, but
Jimmy refused to shoot threes for a while here in Philadelphia too. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, me either. So Al Horford, we got an upgrade as a 3-point shooter that we didn't even know we got. It's a huge win. Plays lockdown defense too. I'm a little weary of how he's gonna fit in with everyone, because his game, it's not really.
It's very old school.
It is. It's boring, to be honest. It's kind of like how the Spurs played.
I was just gonna say it's very Tim Duncan-ish.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway I have is the fact that just like what you said now and what you mentioned in your article, which we did actually release, I forgot we actually did put that out, so we can talk about it because theoretically people have read it. But
yeah, the one guy out there that's read it.
Well, you never know. We don't write often, so the more that we start writing, the more people start finally, checking back in on that website. But that load management, last year we had to play Joel Embiid a shitload of minutes and almost every game in the first half of the season, which made him essentially useless the second half of the season, which to me was the real downfall of last season. When you make two trades for two superstars, or a superstar and a star, and Jimmy and Toby, and they don't have the opportunity to play consistently with the true number one asset on the 76ers, and they never find a flow on the court together, and they had to figure it the hell out in the playoffs. That was a mess. That was a train wreck to watch at times. And we saw that in game one of the Brooklyn series. There was just adjustments that those guys couldn't make. There was that nonverbal communication and that pickups that you only can learn by playing with people, because they didn't fucking play together with any type of consistency. Getting someone like Horford, you're going to be able to allow your superstar center in Joel Embiid to take the necessary rest. Brett Brown will not have to play Joel Embiid 34, 35 minutes a night as often anymore. He will get to rest more games, maybe the Kawhi treatment, maybe even more for a big body guy who has the injury concerns that Joel Embiid has. Al Horford allows you to do that. I'm very pro this. When the name Al Horford first came up, because I despise the man for everything he's done to the Sixers, I was so against this. I was against this when the signing came up. The $109 million number came up for 4 years. It's like, he's 48 years old. Why the fuck are we giving him $109 million? I don't need this shit. We have a center. I don't need him to play the four. I don't think this is going to work out. And then I looked at a lot of the things that you looked at. I let my emotions kind of calm down. And I got to say, I'm still a little pissed off because I hate him, but I do think it's a really smart move. And I think that it allows Joel Embiid to be managed appropriately and take some pressure off Brett Brown, because you got to win basketball games in the regular season. As much as people think it doesn't really matter and the playoffs are essentially its own season, you still got to be in the conversation. And when you look at teams like theoretic, maybe Toronto gets Kawhi back. We don't know yet. I still haven't heard any definitive answer on that. I got to think not. But if they do, Toronto's in the picture. Brooklyn is a completely different team this year. Boston's going to be interesting-ish. They're still Boston. They still give us fits. You have to win basketball games in the regular season, and adding someone like Horford allows you to do this on a far more consistent basis by allowing your superstar center to continue to rest. That was the biggest takeaway I had from Horford. So I can still hate you, but I'm going to love the fact that you're doing everything I hate in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. I think you touched on one of the biggest points there is we took him away from the Celtics too.
Yes.
The load management thing, I agree.
Now we just got to get Valanciunas.
Celtics. Yeah. Well, one can only dream. But we took him away from the Celtics. He's crushed us. Joel Embiid doesn't have to deal with him anymore. Maybe we can finally beat the fucking Celtics in a season series. What do you say?
So last year after Jimmy knocked down that shot, our guy Kevin, I think it was his last pod that he was on, he said he no longer fears the Celtics whatsoever. And then Rob followed it up like a week later saying, you know what, I got to admit, I don't fear the Celtics either. Me, I was still sitting there saying, I hope to fucking God we don't play the Celtics. Now, I don't fear that. And we have Al Horford playing against Joel Embiid every fucking day in practice. He's going to fine-tune every single sloppy hole that Joel Embiid has, and he has a lot of them. Like, there are some holes and flaws to his game that he gets away with because he's a superstar. But if you can clean them up, holy shit. I think that Joe's only scratching the surface too, and I think Horford's going to be able to elevate his game that much further. So those are all like the sexiest of names that kind of happened. We touched a little bit on Richardson in there too. Obviously, he's on a fantastic contract. We have him through 2022, the final year of that as a player option. So he'll no doubt opt out, but he's making around $10 million a year for each of those years. So that's fantastic. We get back Ennis, which is fine. He was one of, again, he and Scott were our only two playable bench players in the entirety of the playoffs, which is hilarious. But he took a discount, and I really appreciate that. So he took a discount. He's 2 years, for $4.2 million. And he did so for the opportunity to continue to, partially run it back and push a championship here in Philadelphia, which means to me, this is when we sit here and see, hey, our city and our fan base made an impression on a professional athlete that says, hey, I'm going to leave millions of dollars on the table because I believe in what they've built and I believe in this city. And I fucking love that. So as much as James Ennis is not sexy, I dig it. So thanks for coming back on a discount. Do you have anything to say on Ennis whatsoever outside of that?
No, not really. Thanks for the discount. We appreciate it. Not excited, not upset with him. Just solid bench player, like you said, and we definitely need those. So good for him. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and look, and if we finally need him 12 minutes a night, you can't. Yeah. Well, in theory, you can't fuck up that much. But then again, Greg Monroe was like a minus 48 in 37 and a half seconds last year in the playoffs. So that shit happens.
And I mean, he fits this cookie cutter mold of every other player on the team. What's he like? 6'7" to 6'9", athletic, 7-foot wingspan. Like that's just kind of what
they love wingspans here in Philly. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I can't do it yet, but I got a crazy stat to drop here at the end of this pod. So
all right. So the remainder of this stuff kind of shook out. We got O'Quinn, which is whatever. The biggest thing that tells me is that Jonah Bolden could potentially be flipped for a pick somewhere because Jonah Bolden seems to have fallen very much so out of favor here in Philadelphia, which is a shame. Had they played him a consistent amount early on last season and allowed him for the opportunities to struggle but teach all those teachable moments, that would have been huge for him. We would have had a backup big in the playoffs that was not Greg fucking Monroe. Like that would have been huge, and a guy who has some versatility to his offensive game. But I think that pretty much spells the end of Jonah here, to me anyway. But O'Quinn, that's fine. Shake Milton is what I'm super excited for. So I geeked out over that a little bit. So I was coaching a kid's baseball game tonight because that's what my life has come to. And so they're sitting there and they're awful on the field, and that is what it is. And I'm sitting there sneaking peeks at the phone real quick, trying to figure out, what else is going on, what's going on early in the first few innings of the Phillies game tonight. And I see Sixers, go 4 years to Shake Milton, and Shake to me was obviously a borderline guy again, but damn, he's exciting, man. And I feel, and we texted about it a little bit in the group chat, or it was just me and you, but personally, I feel like he's a guy who's going to be one of the first people that can play with Ben Simmons that can make sense as a guard. And that's what excites me most, because Ben Simmons is going to play the most minutes on this team every single night. He's not going to come off the floor but like 8-9 minutes. Like that's basically what you're going to have out of him. You need to have guards that can coexist with him, and we haven't had that on any type of consistent basis. I think that Shake can do that. I know it's asking a lot out of a young guy who's playing his first meaningful season in the NBA at this point. You love Shake too?
Oh yeah, I'm all on board for Shake. And the biggest thing I like about him was, hey, we didn't have a ton of money left. We couldn't go out and get a big name guard, and I'm glad we didn't get someone stupid like a Rondo for less money, which probably wouldn't have even worked out. But so we could have made a mistake getting this backup point guard, and we didn't. We're taking a flyer on a younger guy who has nothing but potential to show us, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I think he's going to earn his minutes, and as you said, he was a borderline guy last year, but we're not expecting much of him. Well, let me put it this: the team isn't expecting much of him, but I am. I'm expecting him to come out and be a big time contributor in a couple games, surprise a lot of people, and earn his spot on the team, and really just prove his value. So I'm pumped for Shake. I'm pumped that he's going to get out there on the floor with Ben Simmons, and hopefully he earns the backup point guard role and really just adds value here.
Yeah, could not agree more. And again, he's a guy that it's versatile on both ends of the court, even for someone of his size. So I definitely dig the kid. The final thing that we'll talk about before we get into two just quick points at the end is the 76ers. I haven't seen if this has been finalized yet. It may have been. I don't know. But did finally offer the 5-year max extension to Ben Simmons. So it's what is it? It's 5 years, 168, or 5 years, 170, something like that. It was expected to be agreed upon.
Yeah, I think it's 170 now or something. It doesn't matter when you're talking about that much money. It's just a max deal. Like,
yeah, 5-year max extension.
Yeah.
But so I am a huge Ben Simmons fan, and I'm certainly an apologist to all of the one flaw of his game that people like to pick on.
What are you talking about? He has no flaws.
No, not at all. Incredibly efficient shooter. But so for me, I sit here and I take a look, and I think that the Butler experience, I don't want to say hurt him, but I think it sheltered some of his development because it became let's win now. So it almost told somebody like a Ben Simmons that said, these guys are here on rental. We dumped all of our assets. I can't afford to work on my shot during meaningful minutes in basketball games. And that's why we kind of saw just random, just kind of skirted in there, spot up threes, here and there, and testing the range and some fade, which, by the way, as much as I love Ben Simmons, stand fucking still and shoot a goddamn jump shot. You do not need to spin and have all these moving parts. You're just making a flawed shot look even fucking worse. But I love him. I love Ben Simmons, and I think he's going to be great. But last year you almost took that away from him, the ability to sit there and expand his game, and made it an off-season, a true off-season task again. And this year without Jimmy and going for, we have the Spurs assistant coach, I'm blanking on his name right now, but that we brought in now as our new assistant. And he's not a shot genius, but he's worked with a lot of NBA talent on correcting shots. And he's working with Ben Simmons. To me, I think that this is a season that you're going to see that true superstar type of a leap for Ben Simmons. And I actually think he's going to be in the MVP conversation this season. I don't think he'll get it, but I think that he will be amongst the names discussed, along with teammate Joel Embiid throughout most of this season. We've never really talked too much on Ben Simmons. You a Ben Simmons hater? You Ben Simmons lover? What is it?
I'm a pretty big Ben Simmons fan, and I think he had an awkward year last year. I feel like awkward's the perfect word for it because he has a lot of hype behind him. All everyone really wants to see him do is shoot a three-pointer, even though it's the one thing he refuses to do and can't do. He's the most fluent athlete on the court. He makes everything look easy except for shooting, and I've always been okay with that. If he never shoots a three-pointer, I'd be perfectly fine with that. If he learns to shoot, cool. And I think he's going to work on that. But like you said, there was no room for that last year, and it was pretty obvious. Ben felt intimidated by Jimmy Butler. He was uncomfortable on the floor. I mean, they play it up and pretend like they're boys and, do the celebrations together and stuff. But it was an awkward fit, and Ben Simmons didn't really know what to do. He stepped up a little bit last year, but there was definitely still a lot of that, young player making mistakes, having weird turnovers, and not being able to handle himself correctly in crunch time. I think with this big contract, with Jimmy Butler leaving, with, just him becoming more mature and getting older, Christ, how old is Ben Simmons at this point? Is he 23 or 24?
He'll be 23. So he's 23, and then there's two 27s. I think on the roster, and Joel Embiid's 25 now. I don't know. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean he's 23 years old, right? Like he's really just coming into himself as a person, as a basketball player, on and off the court. I think he steps up and becomes, like you said, an MVP caliber player this year. He runs the court. It becomes his team. He's running the offense, and he knows when to go to the basket, when to distribute, when to fall back and, give somebody else with the ball with the hot hand and step up, at crunch time maybe a little bit, because it's something he's never really had to do. But I see that coming out of him. And, there's videos that always come out of him throwing up awkward shots. I mean, hopefully he gets out of that awkward teenage kind of shot where, like, it looks like he's going to fall over and doesn't quite know what he's doing out there. But, like, again, if he never learns how to shoot, I'm perfectly okay with that. We don't need him to do it. Nobody can really shoot on the Sixers right now. I mean, like I just said, Al Horford's our best three-point shooter.
Tobias Harris.
Yeah, but but you know what I mean. For the sake of being dramatic here, like we're lacking 3-point shooters, but it's not a big part of our game. Ben Simmons fits into pretty much everything we're trying to do. He's the perfect point guard. He's the perfect power forward when he decides to be one. I'm all on board the Ben Simmons train.
Yeah, one of the things that the arguments I get into on Twitter or with just people who want to talk Sixers basketball with me, people who hate Ben Simmons are like that immovable object. There's nothing he can do on the court. And I challenge these people. So I'll ask you, if you were someone who disapproved of Ben Simmons and thought we'd be better off trading him to replenish assets and find other things to build around Joel Embiid. Right now, he averaged, it was 18.6 points a night last season, something like that. It's like 16.6 nights over his first two. If all he does is learn how to shoot 75% from the free throw line or better, does that not make him more confident to absorb contact and go to the rim with authority and actually finish rather than throwing errant passes out whilst in midair because he doesn't want to get fouled? That's how superstars become statistical superstars. James Harden goes to the line 97 times a fucking night. Dwight Howard in his prime, even though he couldn't hit a fucking free throw, goes to the free throw line 100 times a night. That's how they get those points. That's how LeBron gets those points. It isn't all on shooting 45 shots a night. No, these guys shoot 18 to 24 shots a night, and the rest of their work gets done at the free throw line. Are you still going to hate Jimmy Butler? Are those people still going to hate Jimmy Butler? Jesus Christ, I'm sitting here reading Jimmy Butler's name on my notes. Hate Ben Simmons if he's now shooting 75% from the line and he's going to the line up from, 4.5 times a night to 8.5 times a night. Like, he's going to be averaging over 20 points without doing anything else different. How can you hate that? I'm not as okay with you with him never developing a shot. He's got to develop some sort of consistent standstill jump shot. But still, if he just does that one thing, Philly's got to get off his ass, or those who are hating on Ben Simmons anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so the other thing to look at too is what's the alternative to Ben Simmons, right? Who fits better into the role than Ben Simmons right now?
Shake.
Yeah,
total sarcasm.
Hopefully Shake comes out and he's just knocking down threes left and right. Maybe he shows Ben how to shoot. Who knows? Maybe that's what about Shake Milton. But to me, he just fits in so well. He's a quiet guy too, which I think people hate on him for that. Like, he just doesn't have the big superstar personality, despite how talented he is and how young he is and how Hollywood he is. Weirdly enough, like a lot of people like to hate him and say that we should get rid of him because he doesn't get along with Embiid or they don't play well together. I feel like they've grown together largely, and they do play well together. And they understand each other's game. Like, are they best friends and, have friendship rings and stuff? Like, maybe we all want in the back of our head? No, probably not. But, like, you don't need that. It's okay. I think he fits in perfectly. And, yeah, it would be great if he developed a jump shot. And if he wants to become an elite player that we're talking about when we're actually 100 years old and, speaking the legend of Ben Simmons, yeah, he needs to learn how to shoot. But he's doing pretty damn good, and I always get in arguments talking against people who hate Ben Simmons as well. I just don't think they understand the team together as a whole, and he really is a big part of it and is somewhat the glue that is holding everyone together here.
Yeah, could not agree more. So 2 final things, then we'll get to a final thought here. So quickly, last year's playoff roster versus what we will assumedly be going into this next season with. Are we better off now than we were in the playoffs last year?
Yes. Resoundingly yes. We're more complete. Our stars are a little bit older. We have a lot of momentum behind us as a city where everyone's watching us. I think we're more comfortable. Brett Brown's an older coach. He understands how to handle. Well, hopefully he understands how to handle players of the caliber that we now have. We're more defensive minded. We're back to what we need to be. Yes, we are definitely better than we were last year.
I will echo that 100%. I think that the depth and the versatility of the roster as a whole, you mentioned it, almost everyone is 6'7" to 7 feet tall on this roster. It is wild, and they can all play multiple positions in this new NBA. I'm very excited to see what this new team can do, and I'm excited to see what the fact that this is the team now. Like, Brett Brown has had to coach 4 and 5 different rosters every fucking year that he's been here. This is the first time in his tenure that he's going to have his team, what he believes will work on day one, what plan he goes in with. He will not theoretically have to change that come games 20 because we have to use the assets we don't have to bring in a different superstar. So I'm very excited for Brett Brown, I think, more than anything else, because I love Brett Brown and always think he's unfairly criticized. So speaking on Brett Brown, how critical of a year is this for Brett Brown, a guy who took them just one win further in the playoffs this year than last last year than 2 years ago, technically. He now has his team. If it doesn't click quickly, do you think this front office has a fairly quick trigger on him?
Unfortunately, I do. I think it's either going to be Elton Brand or him, and I would much rather blame Elton Brand, but he's kind of done a pretty good job of doing what he has to do and learning on the job. Brett Brown always gets criticized. People say he can't handle the team, but think back to the Jimmy Butler scenario, and I hate harping over Jimmy Butler. I think we're going to have to just put a stop on him for the rest of this season. We just kind of probably should just stay away from talking about the guy. But Brett Brown, had Jimmy Butler come at him and say they need to play the pick and roll more, and the media tried to blow it up and make it a big deal. And instead of playing into it and getting angry and blowing up, Brett Brown handled it extremely well and was like, you know what, maybe we will add a little more pick and roll in here. Got a star who needs it. I'm going to adapt to him and make him happy. He's really mature as a coach and does not get enough credit for how he handles his team. Is his game management the best? No, definitely not. That's a little bit where we lack. But hopefully now that he's playing with a team that's more fitting of his desired skill set of, just long, lengthy defensive guys moving all over the floor and, winning games, 100 to 80 or, keeping them, lower scoring than these.
Oh, they're going to score. They're going to use that defense to offense. That's what they're looking to do. All that length, all that crazy freakish athleticism. That's exactly what his offense doesn't have is set anything. His offense is, we're going to have active hands and we're going to get points in transition. And I think that's what's super exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree in there. But unfortunately, this just is a critical year to him. Like they almost made it last year. I mean, they lost to the Raptors, who ended up winning it all. So, there's a lot to be said for that. And I mean, they lost by. I almost don't even want to talk about it. I'm gonna get angry again, but because
that's still bouncing.
Yeah, seriously. So quick story to get back into that. I mean, I was on a work trip in Italy, and you cannot watch NBA games in Italy the same way you can in America, which I didn't find out until the Sixers were streaming live. So I was sitting there obsessively refreshing the ESPN Score Center app because I couldn't get it live streaming anywhere. And, the game, the Kawhi gets the ball and I see the inbound, and then it just goes black for a couple minutes. And I was like, all right, this is fine. Like, it's no big deal. We're going to overtime. And Kawhi hits that shot, and I'm sitting there in my hotel room yelling. I don't know what people in Italy think of me now because I was yelling at 3 in the morning that time. And yeah, that's going to be a memory that will stick with me forever. But to get back to my point here, we have a tough road ahead of us here. There is a high expectation, especially of Brett Brown. And unfortunately, if we do need a scapegoat at the end of the year, it might be on him, and that's going to be how the media looks at it. They're going to be critical of him, and whether we like it or not, I think that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of that particular situation. It's the same thing that I state with Gabe Kapler right now, another manager who I have complete trust in and enjoy. But unfortunately, especially in this city, the managers do come under fire, and head coaches do come under fire more so than anything else. But let's get to a final point here before we sign off on your first episode as official team member here at ANYP. So we like to give just random interesting stats or interesting anything that we have to that final thought. What do you got for us tonight, Scott?
All right, I teased this a little bit before, but the Sixers, all being tall, lengthy, and athletic, defensive-minded. Zaire Smith currently has the shortest wingspan of anyone on the Sixers. Can you take a guess at what his wingspan is?
I'm going to say 6'9".
6'10".
Jesus.
6'10" is the shortest wingspan of anyone on our team. Ridiculous. I can't believe we've assembled the team that we have. I was mind-boggled when I saw that stat.
Well, I, for one, am a huge Zaire fan, and I can't wait for him. I was actually driving to – where the hell was I driving last year? I was driving into the city for something, and I remember just picking up just getting onto the 95 extension there and getting the alert that Zaire was going to finally dress, and I almost crashed my truck. I was so fucking excited. So, yeah, 6'10", Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. See, active hands on defense. This is going to be a fun fucking team this year. I can't wait. All right, so my final thought is going to be just a quick word from our sponsor. It is Just Food. Treat yourself. Take it home. It is 215-794-FOOD. That's 215-794-3663. Their catering service out of Buckingham Green Shopping Center in Bucks County, PA, just above Peddler's Village, if you guys are familiar. Do catering services. Their in-shop location is the location I just discussed there. Stop in, ask for Rob, tell him Shane from ANYP sent you. Scott, it was awesome having you on. We don't know how often you'll be on it, but you'll be writing for us and hopefully on the pod, fairly regularly here. But that'll be it here for TJ's One of Us. You can always follow us on our website. It's www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com, where you can find Scott's latest article. And one of Connor's is coming up soon as well. Also follow us on our Twitter accounts. It's at ANY Podcast. Mine is at Shane_Mead. Scott is getting prepared or changing his Twitter. I don't know what the hell you're doing with it, Scott, but we'll have your Twitter account up with your next article.
For sure. Later in the week, we'll get that all set up, and we'll be good to go. So you guys can chirp me on Twitter and tell me why Ben Simmons is the worst thing that exists in our city, or whatever the hell you want to say.
You're going to want to delete your life. I hate being on Twitter. No offense to all the followers who have undoubtedly sat there and come up my throat for different things, but it is an exhausting black hole, Philadelphia sports Twitter. But we've rambled enough. We've won an hour and 6 minutes tonight here for TJ's One of Us, so that might be our longest episode. But Scott, as always, man, good to hear from you, and looking forward to some more episodes.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me on, and go Sixers.
Yes, sir. Let's carry this over to the Jackdaws to sign us out.
Fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a rib or two, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky souls still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.